Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise rebuild. We are on to Season 4 today, beginning with the offseason. We just wrapped up what was a very quick year where we only went 6-11. Certainly, by year 3 of most rebuilds, you expect to be in a little bit better shape than we are. It took us a couple years to build an offense that could actually become league average after having one of the worst in Season 1 and Season 2. I like the work that's been done along the offensive line. Mateo Soriano, solid pick from last year. He was just a rookie. Joey Riddick at wide receiver has flashed some potential, but I don't think we've gotten everything out of him that we can. And then quarterback Marquise McLeod. After a couple seasons now in his career, we have seen some progress. Season 2 for him was a lot better. And like I said, this offense performed at a more average level, while the defense, despite being the more talented part of this team, did not play to expectations. So in the case of Chuck Johnson, who has the worst coach win percentage in the entire NFL, the good news is that he has not run out of scapegoats quite yet. We are going to be firing our defensive coordinator, whose job security was rated a 27%. So we're going to look for a new defensive coordinator. It seems we're on track now with Kevin Stefanski, at least average offense last year. I look at so many parts of this offense too as being young players that should keep getting better. So I have high hopes for year 4, and certainly Chuck Johnson needs to prove something. The fans are not happy with Chuck Johnson. We have to make things happen in Season 4, or this is going to look a lot like when the Bengals just kept bringing back Marvin Lewis back all those years. Steelers fans were probably, poking fun at that situation, but now the shoe is on the other foot. So it looks like the best defensive coordinator that we could sign that wasn't our previous DC is a level 11 Emmanuel Ortega. So we're going to go with the best defensive coordinator that we can. And then we'll switch from what was a base 3-4 defense to a 3-4 disguise. Just want to switch things up a little bit and then find a different 3-4 scheme. And we'll switch to the Tampa Bay Todd Bowles defensive playbook then. I didn't see an associated playbook with the new defensive coordinator, so I'm just going to do one that is different. Now, as far as adjusting the overall team this season, I don't think there needs to be an overhaul. I think we have a solid offensive line with a few young players that'll keep getting better. I think we can look at moving Joey Riddick to that wide receiver 1 spot. I think I'd like to line him up on the offense's left a lot more often. Maybe give him some softer matchups there where the defense tends to play their top cornerback on the other side, and his route running hasn't developed as quickly as the rest of his skill set. I thought Chase Brown was really good last year. I think we should utilize him more this year. And then I think we'll try to add a receiver at some point, especially if we're unable to bring back Jalen McMillan. I've already seen a lot of support for the idea of trading away TJ Watt this offseason. I am not going to this time around. I think we have a lot of good pieces, and this could be a much better defense, especially if we can go get an upgrade at safety. I think that's a position that ends up mattering quite a bit in Madden as we sim along. I've noticed that when I try to get cheap at safety or I lose a star there, that the defense just doesn't recover from that very well. So I hope there's a chance in free agency. And we should also be addressing the linebacker position. After losing Patrick Queen, we could use another playmaker. We are absolutely going to pick up the option on Derek Harmon. So he will be around for now 2 more seasons under contract. But what we've seen with a lot of these players is that we're not meeting their motivations. A lot of these players want to win. We have to convince them this is the place to do it. And we'll re-sign the punter, Bradley Pinion. I'll pay up a little bit for some tackle depth, and for Jalen Moore, he will come back on a 1-year deal worth about $7 million. I just remembered, too, the comment on the last offseason I did, where if I just leave a lot of these negotiations open, I end up then not having all my spots available in free agency, which I'm not a huge fan of. A guy that can play the inside positions for $3 million. Sign me up for another year of Josh Myers. Roman Wilson will be hitting free agency, as will Brashard Smith. Nick Johnson has become that exciting RB3 that I want to stick with. We're going to let Calvin Austin go. He's 29 years old now. This optimization of the UI is still really bad. You'll notice here, like, I can withdraw, switch to the next guy, but I can't withdraw. I move too quickly. I have to, like, give the UI a chance to catch up before moving over. We'll see if we can bring back Jalen McMillan or find a different slot receiver. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get this team in the type of condition where he'd re-sign easily, and the same is true here for Zach Frazier. So we'll have him say no, and we are going to look at using the franchise tag then. $16.7 million, not too bad at center for an 85 overall. Buys us another year to convince him to sign long-term. We got a little bit of upgrading to do here for the practice squad players. And Keontae Hamilton will have a chance now to make this roster. He's a 72 overall. Nice little block shed upgrade that time. And I think decent rotational ratings for a 25-year-old defensive tackle. Let's see what we get here for Clifton Hutchinson. Another roster bubble player. We get one power move. And he's pretty close to earning another upgrade. We get 2 power moves on this go. So 24 years old, 78 power moves, decent strength, good speed. Gotta keep in mind, we do not own a first-round pick for this offseason. I use that to trade up for Roderick Barber, a move that so far to me has been the right one in just terms of the type of player he's shown to be. But we have 2 second-rounders, 2 thirds. We have a lot of ways we can move up the board if we need to this season. We have a good deal of cap space available, and here's what's out there this season. Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. That Eagles defense is going to look very different if both those guys end up leaving. We got Julian Love, Brandon Aubrey, Laramie Tunsil, Jonathan Allen's out there, Jamel Dean. Remember, I ended up trading Patrick Queen to the Saints. They ended up giving him the franchise tag, so he is going to be sticking around. And in that case, we're going to try to go after Damone Clark, who's coming off a productive 100-plus tackle season with 3 interceptions, a forced fumble. He has superstar development, and we need a little bit more at linebacker now. He's still extremely fast. I see I have 2 active negotiations right now, despite not having any. I thought I had taken care of that. Apparently not. And then Julian Love is out there. There's at least some interest, and that would be a nice upgrade. Versatile safety would be an immediate upgrade, whether it's at free or strong safeties. We're going to try this out as well. I'm willing to go 2 years to bring him in. We'll top the Patriots. And then looking at Peter Skoronski, we have an opening at guard, and he really likes the way we fit for him. He likes Marquise McLeod, the history here in Pittsburgh, so we're going to make an offer for the 27-year-old guard. I'm always willing to pay up a bit for some offensive linemen. And let's take this up to 3 years, about $50 million. Can only offer to 3 right now, and we have signed all 3. Julian Love, Peter Skoronski, and Damone Clark all join us. Now, one of the secondary needs I wanted to look at this year is the backup quarterback position. If we don't make progress this year, and there's still questions about Marquise McLeod because I'm not totally sold yet long-term, it'd be nice to have another quarterback to just see what things, what does it look like with somebody else running the show? And I'm intrigued here with Joe Milton. He has 99 throw power, 85 short accuracy. I think he's developed all right, and at the very least, he's certainly a solid QB2 to have. Some of the more secondary ratings, like throw on the run and under pressure, are decent. And I'd love to give him an offer. I'll go 2 years, $11.5 million. I'm also going to offer a deal to Jalen McMillan. I thought he was very solid for us a year ago, but we don't fit his motivations well. And Jalen McMillan has signed. Nobody else was showing interest. He was still one of the better route runners available, especially under 30. Following a few more sessions in free agency, we do get Joe Milton under contract, giving us a new QB2 for this next season. But now we're going to be shifting our focus more to the NFL draft and how we attack it without a first-round pick. Just taking a look at Mock Draft 5, we have a bunch of edge rushers towards the top. It's extremely defensive heavy. Could see the first quarterback go at 10 to Carolina. We got a couple skill players here, tight ends going in the top 15. A lot of corners. Then the tackles start to go. There was a similar run in this range a year ago. It's wild seeing receivers not here. I do have some wide receiver info, perhaps in the second round. That is something we could consider. I don't think there's any position we have to target, just the way we've been set up here. So I think I'd like to find another proficient route runner. Just trying to find some skills that we don't have that can be tough to come by. But generally, the route runnings are not that impressive anyway. You've really got to develop that skill or get someone who's more of a top 15 type of player that already has it. There is a chance that we cannot get a deal done with Zach Frazier long term, and it might be easier to just have the next guy ready to go. So there are a couple centers I like outside of round 1. I might want a little bit more linebacker info. I have a couple guys that have graded out well, but some of the others haven't graded out well at all. But if there is a value here for us to try and target, it is Chris Leonard from Ohio State. 52 on the big board. A-zone coverage, A-tackling. Runs a low 4.6. He's going to have good speed, not on the higher end, but very solid and well-rounded. And then signing Julian Love doesn't make this a huge need, but I did get a bunch of safety information. A lot of these players checking in with worse talent than projected. I mean, regardless, it's good to know that, but this class has a lot of traps. But we have the info. Nick Bernal is one of the players we could look to target. Hybrid safety out of South Carolina. We might want to try again after getting little production from Patrick Stewart. And we just made a signing of wide receiver Xavier Legette, who was a first-rounder for the Carolina Panthers. Legette had no interest there in free agency, despite coming off a career season, 904 yards, 10 touchdowns. I would see his skill set being more of a true backup to DK Metcalf. I signed him to a 1-year, $5 million contract. I do feel like we have to keep the idea of what's after DK Metcalf in the back of our head, and I want to keep bringing in some different players that could fill in if there's an injury or give us some different options. Now, deduct the boost to route running because his morale is not going to stay 99, but Legette's game has really come full circle, I feel. The release is a little bit low, but certainly worth a look on a 1-year prove-it deal. But we will not be giving him Hines Ward's 86. I've chosen my 3 focus players, a receiver, a linebacker, and a defensive tackle. To recap free agency, Quinyon Mitchell left the Eagles to go to the Colts, while Cooper DeJean goes to the Denver Broncos. We signed Julian Love, the 4th-rated player in free agency. Laramie Tunsil joins Cleveland. Jamel Dean heads to Carolina. Jonathan Allen is a Raider. The Jaguars sign Cole Kmet and Bernard Ryman and Zach Sealer. Zach Bond goes to the Bengals. Rashawn Gary to the Patriots. Cameron Kitchens to Seattle. Those are the real highlight moves. Sam Darnold is apparently a Jet again. He was the highest rated quarterback available. And how about this? The Raiders not signing Geno Smith. Nobody has signed Geno Smith, which means the QB1 in Las Vegas is going to be the one and only, like he's literally the only quarterback on the team, Joe Book will be the starting quarterback of the Raiders. To check on my focus players now, wide receiver Elton Bradley ends up being a round 1 talent. That doesn't surprise me. 21 years old. His speed is decent. His acceleration and strength are pretty good, and Bradley does have solid route running underneath. Great skills with the ball in his hands. Very interested, perhaps, on day 2. And then Josh Johnston from Auburn will give us another starting caliber linebacker option. We got those B grades across the board, blazing fast speed, if that's what we want to prioritize. And he's a really solid player. And then I'm going to have one full talent grade here. I thought Andrew McElroy would come in a bit higher, but it's part of why I keep these players, focus players. McElroy is extremely athletic, has very good finesse moves, and that combination, combined with some early production, can turn into a steal. But as we sit right now, I think the player atop our board has to be Chris Leonard, knowing there's a top 5 caliber talent out there. Now, he's projected top 5. The available board's going to have him in the 50s. Right now, the mock draft has him at 26. So he might actually end up being out of reach if we don't move up. But it's time, everybody. Welcome to now our 3rd draft of the series. No first rounder for our Steelers this time around. The Chicago Bears are on the clock. The Titans are next. And Chicago will get the ball rolling with, surprise, surprise, an edge rusher, Colin Watkins. Tennessee is next, and they will go with an edge rusher in Sergio Reyes. These drafts have been very defensive heavy. Quarterbacks, receivers, normally premier positions aren't going all that early. Instead, a lot of DBs, pass rushers, and then you get the guys that block those pass rushers afterwards. But it feels like a defensive shift in the overall talent league-wide. Carolina does go with a quarterback as the first offensive player at 10. Patriots go with a tight end in Jack Walton, the first skill player, and then the Jets go Javier Martinez. 2 tight ends, no receivers, no offensive linemen. Mario McAllister is already off the board. He was like the 7th ranked corner. I was kind of interested. And then I saw how stacked this cornerback class was, and we should see at least 6 or 7 go in this round, including 4 consecutive. How expensive is it to move up in the first round? Well, it does seem very doable. But the way I look at my board, I have some really good day 2 options. I have 4 top 100 picks, and at the very least, I'd have to consolidate 3 of those plus something late to move up to 19. And although we have the top 5 talent data here on Chris Leonard, I think I would take my chances maybe getting Josh Johnston later and a couple more players. It was Cincinnati who was projected to take him, I believe. No, they go Jerry Harris. Maybe I was a little early there. Let's see the Ravens here at 23. Baltimore is going to fortify the offensive line. But there is a deal I am willing to make. We'll give up one of our 3rd round picks, the latest one, plus a 5th round pick to move up into the 1st round. And we are going to select linebacker Chris Leonard from Ohio State. Every year I've tried to get a difference maker on the defensive side while building up the offense. Leonard is 2nd in true value. We get him at 26. And Leonard has hidden development. We'll see how risky the injuries are, but when it comes to players projected this highly, I kind of overlook all injury risks there. Because sometimes you'll get like 85 injury, and you're like, oh, I had no reason to be that concerned about it. So he does have hidden development, and that is our Patrick Queen replacement, and we still own 2 more top 100 picks. The Raiders get a tackle to protect Joe Book. And now, I think I'll play it pretty patiently here in rounds 2 and 3, depending on how small the board ends up getting. But I think I have a pretty good board full of value here, but they have to make it to 58. Elton Bradley is off the board, selected by the Buffalo Bills at 54. There was a decent chance of him being our pick. Instead, we're going to stay on the defensive side of the football, and our next pick is safety Nick Bernal from South Carolina. Very strong, great bench press, solid acceleration, going to help us well in the tackling department. and can do a little bit of everything. You know, I need to roll the dice again, I think, here with the young safety. And he's 21st in true talent, so it's going to be a really good value pick. And he has normal, or rather hidden development. Unlike Patrick Stewart, who did get drafted with normal, now we can run this back again with a potential difference maker. Love this trade for us. We just moved up 7 spots. It only cost us a 5th rounder. And this is where we're going to select center Tony Rodriguez. If it doesn't work out with Zach Frazier, if nothing changes, I could look to trade him and potentially play someone new. So this is a luxury pick for us at this point, but I think that we have solid players across the roster. Rodriguez, 75 in true value, taken at 63. And hidden development. That's 3 in a row. So that's tremendous depth now along the offensive line. And that trio there is why I didn't want to give up like 2/3 plus a late pick to trade up a little bit earlier, because I wanted to come away with 3 top 100 players, not 2. I'm happy with that. We'll see what we can do now with our day 3 selections. Here in the 4th round, I am going to select Andrew McElroy. I think he's a perfect day 3 player who has legitimate upside with good finesse rushing, B awareness, athleticism that's above average in almost every category. McElroy is our next pick. Can we go 4 for 4? Can we? We can! How about that? So we're getting deeper at positions of strength. I like to draft a receiver now, and I have less information on him than the rest of my picks. Alejandro Gonzalez, this might be a little early, honestly, but I think the upside is there where he can, be a little bit taken earlier than his projection, because I think that his talent will be higher than where it was meant to be. But Alejandro Gonzalez, a solid 4.4 running wide receiver, good acceleration, decent strength, B medium route running, A catch in traffic, A catching, a developmental slot with upside, and 56 in true value. Hands made of glue, makes 50-50 balls look like 80-20 balls, runs fundamentally sound short routes. We have 4 hidden dev players. Can I have 5? Not this time. But 93 speed, 91 acceleration. This is kind of a do-over on Roman Wilson, I feel. Wilson had pretty good speed and could have been developed into our next slot, but I never really did a lot with him. Perhaps one of our greatest needs now is at the number 4 cornerback position. Jonathan Parsons is going to be next. Some holes in his game, but at this point, solid press coverage, decent tackling. There's enough of a starting point. Oh, 180 at true value. Not bad. And normal development there. And our 7th round selection is going to be a linebacker in Clayton Studebaker. Pretty much just drafting him based off of the combine results. He can run, hit. That's a 7th round linebacker to me. 244 in true value. That's going to be a little bit lower. Normal dev. Now, I don't think that there's been any kind of an update to fix the draft recap from freezing when I'm backing in and out of player profiles. But here is our class led by an 81 overall linebacker. Man, I really thought about just passing and then thought of him being top 5 with like a ridiculously high overall. For the price it took to move up, it was a no-brainer at that point. But 81, I'd be shocked. Is that the best? I guess he was number 2 in true value behind Patrick Blackwell. So we got the 2nd highest rated player in this entire class. There were 2 80 overall tight ends and a 79. You can see just how good the cornerbacks are. Wow. Very stacked. Elton Bradley, that's a miss not getting him. But, I mean, if I drafted him, that I would have missed on someone else. But Bradley, a good one going to the Buffalo Bills. I'm happy again with the offseason. I like the process overall. We're getting hidden dev players at positions of need that give us options on how to build the rest of the way. So I think that I did a pretty good job here. Nick Bernal in round 2, Tony Rodriguez is 72, Andrew McElroy is a 72, and then Alejandro Gonzalez. I mean, a 73 overall receiver in round 5. We'll take that. Then we get some depth afterwards. So the Bears took Colin Watkins. He is an 80 at the very top. And from this screen, I can't tell who is hidden dev and who isn't. I guess in the name of science, can I see that he has hidden dev and then back out without it freezing on me? No, I cannot move my cursor at all. So we know we made a very quality pick then in round 1, getting the second highest rated player in the entire draft class. On the lower end, you had later picks in the 72 to 73 range. In round 2, the lowest was a 70. That's a higher floor than I would have imagined, but 76s there at the very top. Bradley was there. He was a favorite of mine. We ended up with Bernal, and this is an above average pick despite taking him at the 26th spot. Round 3 featured 75 at the very top. Another really good tight end in Will Fletcher, but 62 on the bottom. Now you start to see some real misses. Players who had undrafted talent in some cases, like Caleb Newberry. We ended up trading with both of our third rounders, so we didn't have a pick in this spot. But we did pick early in the 4th. We made the best pick too, tied at least, in a 3-way tie here. Andrew McElroy at 72, 61 is here on the low end. In the 5th round, we made the best pick, tied, 73, Alejandro Gonzalez. 61's there at the bottom. In the 6th round, Emmett Pierce, a defensive tackle at 76. First round caliber player there. Bradley Fenton, good trench players this late. You love to see that. And our pick was decent, of Jonathan Parsons. And finally, round 7. I know we're not going to win this one. 76 D tackle, 75 D tackle. Unless it's a major pressing need, you do not have to take defensive tackles all that early. And you can get starting caliber, not high caliber guards here, but a 73 as a rookie that you can develop? That sounds pretty good to me. And we ended up making a pick that will look maybe a little bit below average here in Studebaker. Always fun to see the top standouts with these ratings too, and we got Chris Leonard with 82 awareness. This guy is ready to play yesterday. Fastest player, Patrick Blackwell, the cornerback, he went in the top 5. Ben Battaglia has 95, a 6th round speed receiver to Kansas City. They stay on brand there. 97 strength for Lance Sheldon, that's the Raiders' first rounder at defensive tackle. Now, was that the pick they got from us? Because they were the 1 seed in the AFC this past season. I thought our pick would have come in around 10th. We gave them a pretty nice selection. Looking at route running, it's rare to find any of these ratings that hit 80. It's a skill that must be developed, not drafted. So Elton Bradley does have a nice starting point, but for us to get Gonzalez, who's not much worse of a route runner and has the edge in other categories, good value for us. 82-man coverage was the best out there. That's Tyrell DeVoe. Patrick Blackwell, 80-plus in both categories. That's a really high-level cornerback with 86 press. Oh, finally, I haven't added the running back all day, but Keenan McMillan will finally break that unfortunate trend and make all right again on this channel. Here's an intriguing UDFA. Britton Hawkins, a tight end from FSU. He has 84 speed. He's more of a vertical threat with 63 run blocking. Those ratings have a legit chance to make this roster. Let's take a look at our schedule this season. We're going to open against the Cincinnati Bengals, get the Ravens, Jets, and then we play the Bengals again. That season series is done by week 4. The Browns are there in week 5, so an early stacked schedule in division. We do not have a game against the Raiders unless we happen to match up in the postseason. So no meeting with Joe Book imminent. We can't forget about Johnny Sampson, though. What's Johnny up to these days? He is still on the New York Giants. He's hurt. Johnny, you didn't play. How did you get hurt? Broken finger. All right. You and Doug Butcher, I guess, both getting hurt despite me not knowing how. Once again, we're going to go into the year with me really liking the way this roster has come together. We're going to try a couple things differently. Joey Riddick at the wide receiver 1 position, so his route tree will be all the stuff that Metcalf was running. And then more snaps this year is in order for Chase Brown. I felt like watching back a lot of last year's games, and especially that final episode, like I didn't give him enough touches. You know, early on, I had Nick Johnson fever, 7th round running back, was really stealing the show, and then he couldn't really follow it up, and just by the end, Chase Brown just consistently did more with what was given than the other running backs were. So we're going to ride the hot hand. If it's Chase Brown again, he will get the most touches. I'd like to get a little bit more vertical, though. Xavier Legette gives us another option, especially if there is an injury to either of the top 2 receivers. And then Gonzalez is really the slot backup that could develop behind McMillan, maybe earn some snaps along the way this season. Defensively, we have to get better against the pass. I changed up the coordinator, changing up the playbook, adding in a good safety in Julian Love, and then the investment at linebacker. Chris Leonard now becomes a starter, and I think this position is back to potentially being a strength. I think this is a very good roster. There's no reason why it shouldn't make the postseason, but we won 6 games last year, and it wasn't all that different. Again, I think I have to keep tweaking the playbook to try to get us to get the ball downfield more. I think there needs to be a better big play emphasis in this passing game. And I think 3 out of our top 4 receivers are all big play guys when used properly. Now, again, one of my focuses was going to be to bring in another QB2 in case I need another look. Because if we're not playing well, I will want that secondary look. Just that how the show looks with somebody else. The guy I was originally going to target was Spencer Rattler. I kind of thought of that when I was looking at things at the end of last episode. But I ended up pivoting to Joe Milton. The plan is going to be then to carry 3 quarterbacks into the season with Marco Temple also there. So there's some depth, you know, just in case things don't go as planned. I have some options there that fit our receivers. I am certainly not done with 7th round running back Nick Johnson. We got so many good glimpses last season, but unfortunately it was all early in the year, and by the end his efficiency had fallen. But now year 2. Let's see if he can take a step and remain at least a secondary part of this offense. I'll probably be editing his number as well, but this is Alejandro Gonzalez. I think he's pretty good if that's who your 5th receiver is. Solid route running. I've been trying to develop a route runner on this team, and I want to try getting him a few snaps if we can too. It's sometimes tough to get receivers 4 and 5 involved. Early on, though, here, just the manual route running here in the drill certainly feels pretty good. Look at the way he's beaten Jalen Ramsey in coverage. I want to get Mateo Soriano as much development as we can. I think he has the chance to be the best offensive lineman on this team and potentially for a long time. Even the promising tackles, though, end up giving up a lot of sacks in the simulating. Unfortunately, the offensive line development in this game is lackluster. You know, there aren't things tracked that can really accelerate their development, and pass rush is kind of king in this game, so all the tackles have growing pains. But I think as this line just naturally gets older, everybody gets a little bit better, we could see another leap out of this offense. Pass rusher Roderick Barber has already replaced Alex Highsmith. The next level would be him showing that he can actually replace TJ Watt, who is not getting any younger. Whether we trade him or not, the clock is ticking, as he's well into his 30s, should still have some years of elite play remaining. But if this team does not show the progress, then there could be another trade, and then Barber becomes the guy. But I think that the sky's the limit with him. I think a dominant inside linebacker finds a lot of ways to make a difference in this game as well. I felt like we definitely missed Patrick Queen when he was traded. And when you have a guy there that's great in coverage, and it's going to take time for Leonard to really be that guy, but just the space they can cover, the things they can close on, it's a big deal. And a lot of my series have, had an elite inside linebacker at some point. And here's our chance to have that guy now in this series. Which reminds me, too, that I still have to go over some of these rookie ratings a bit better with the draft recap being all bugged. There we go. I think we could be getting close to a silver here. Oh, look at that tackle. I'm not sure that Nick Bernal's going to be an immediate starter. I liked a bit of what I saw last year from Kobe Bryant, so we could have that former Seahawks secondary with him and Julian Love. But we're definitely going to need to see a bit of Bernal. And, I love seeing that flowing hair. We're not going to give him number 43 right now. But certainly, we want to see us develop that great safety that they've been looking for since Troy Polamalu. We've earned 2 upgrades with Mateo Soriano, and his pass protection should look very good going into the new year. +4 pass block this time. That will upgrade power, and that'll boost his lead block and more of the running game part of his skill set. So, still a lot of work to do to make him more complete, but the pass protection is very good. I think before Bernal gets on the field, we need that zone coverage to be a tad more reliable. +2 will bring him up to a 73. Roderick Barber is actually going to get some run-stopping upgrades, as his finesse rushing is already outstanding, and I'd like to complete the skill set. And running back, Nick Johnson, he will get a power upgrade. That's 4 broken tackle. And we'll go with an elusive upgrade, maybe receiving down the road, but trying to make him more effective for his second season. And let's see, we have a position battle storyline, I think at the beginning of every preseason. Who is it this time?
Some turmoil threatens their roster in the early season. A challenge has been made for a top spot on the depth chart.
Who are we talking with? It is Caleb Johnson. This one actually, I think, makes some sense. I have Chase Brown listed as the top running back right now when it's been Caleb Johnson. Let's say that we'll talk after preseason. Game 1 of preseason saw us lose 23-17. Joe Milton threw 3 interceptions and only completed 43% of his passes. That is not the showing we hoped for in his Steelers preseason debut. Caleb Johnson, 11 for 30. Not exactly doing it for me there. Alejandro Gonzalez had a few catches. Castaneda scored a touchdown. Caleb Johnson had some receiving production. That's a bad day, though, for the offense when the quarterback makes that many mistakes. Rookie OTAs. What is this storyline?
A new rookie class has joined the team. There are a lot of hopes for this group, and one player was drafted to make an immediate impact in the lineup.
And that player is number 45, first rounder, Chris Leonard. Welcome aboard. Thanks, Coach. Excited to be here. Can't wait to start this journey. So what's the plan for me? We're going to say get up to speed quick. He's already in the 80s for overall. Developing isn't really the focus. He's going to develop. But we need him ready to go immediately. And I want to see what that one chooses. I know usually you just pick development there, but we're talking about a guy who has already developed. He's an 81. Second preseason game went a little bit better. We won against Dallas. Marquise McLeod, 1 touchdown, 9 for 11 passing. Joe Milton, a much cleaner game. We'll accept that. On the ground, Nick Johnson carried 11 times for 42 yards. Chase Brown, 11 for 36. Caleb Johnson, 9 for 31, less efficient than Nick. And at receiver, DK Metcalf found the end zone. Jared Hutchinson had a couple passes. Jalen McMillan had 3. Patrick Stewart now collects an interception. TJ Watt gets 2 sacks. And then we got blown out in the final week, only scoring 10 points with 165 yards of offense. Marquise McLeod now ends the preseason on a really bad note. The run game just did next to nothing. We gave up on it. I mean, they must have had the ball the entire time. So all in all, this is not a very good preseason at all. The quarterback play didn't appear to be very good. Running game wasn't all that efficient. Not sure how Jared Hutchinson became the leading receiver, but he surpassed 100 yards at least. And Chris Leonard, he led us in tackles. TJ Watt, 2.5 sacks. We had just 1 interception for Patrick Stewart. So that gets us through preseason. And next time we get into year 4 with the Steelers. And we'll see if this team is finally ready to play like a playoff team again. I think we have a really strong foundation on both sides of the ball, but it needs to start turning into wins. Or we're just going to have to completely, move on from players that are good but not getting the job done. Maybe a Jalen Ramsey is traded at some point. We'll see about TJ Watt. But I feel like this team can be very strong this next season. If we get good play from Marquise McLeod, if the defense is better. Let me know what you think of this team down below, and what do you think about our chances of actually having the kind of year that we've been waiting for and what we thought was going to happen last season. Is this Steelers team ready? Thank you all for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you when year 4 kicks off next time.